Hey everybody, so in this video we are going to talk about GigPress. GigPress has been around for a long time now, really easy to use plugin to manage a list of shows for your band. And I'll kind of talk you through how I use it. And in the next video that we do, I will talk about how to actually start displaying your shows. So GigPress lives here on the left-hand side. We can start by going right to add a show. We don't need to go to any of this other stuff right away. We're just going to start adding shows. Obviously, we need a date. I'm just going to create some kind of fake shows here. We'll say we're doing something in March 16th. Pick a time. We'll say it's at 8 p.m. That's pretty typical. You'll notice that since we don't have an artist created already for GigPress, it's asking us to create an artist here for the first time. So we'll create the Miserables artist here. We can give the artist a URL. So we're just going to give it our own website. Then we need to do a venue. Now, right here, we can create a new venue as well by just going to this drop down and selecting Add New Venue. I don't know any addresses of venues right off the top of my head, but let's play. We're playing some club, and the address is 123 West Dearborn Street, Chicago, Illinois. I have no idea what the zip code would be there, but we'll just say it's that. It's in the US. We can then add a website to the venue. We'll say somevenue.com. We can give it a phone number. And then the next one is admittance. The ones that come default are all ages license. I have no idea what that's supposed to mean, and no minors. The two I usually use are just all ages and no minors. You can modify this list by going to the GigPress settings. I think all I did was change the name of the no minors one to 21 plus for the Miserables site, but it can basically be whatever you want. You can also add additional ones if in your area maybe you have a show that has kind of weird age restriction rules. So here we'll just say that this is a no minor show. We can give it a price, and it says to put in the currency symbol, so we'll say it's $8. Then we can give it a ticket URL, which is nice because it'll have a little link by the show to buy tickets. So we can do something like ticketfly.com, and we would here we wouldn't just put ticketfly.com. We would actually put copy and paste the link directly to the ticket page. That's what I recommend doing. That'll hopefully help you drive a little bit of traffic to purchase tickets. This isn't as common anymore. I almost never fill in the ticket phone number. You could, though. That seems like a pretty outdated way to buy tickets at this point, though. External URL, I have no idea what they're really asking for here. I'm not even sure where it displays. I never fill it in. Here we can give some notes. This is just where I put what other bands we're playing with and any other kind of pertinent show details. So, with the shitty Beatles. So we'll just have that. And then part of a tour. Another feature that GigPress has is you can organize your shows into tours. We've done this, so whenever we do like a road trip, whether it's a weekend to 10 days to whatever we might do, we create tours out of that so that they display a little differently and they look like a block. Makes them a little easier to manage as well. Another feature is if you have a related post, this will show some information. It basically shows the show information, the details you're putting in here on that post. You can show it. I've tried using this. I don't think it works too great, and I don't think it's very useful. So, what I would use instead is just what we'll talk about in the next segment is we'll talk about the GigPress short codes when we create our shows page, and those will actually let us have a little bit more control over how the data is displayed on any post. So I'm going to add this show, and so you can see now it's telling me that this has been created, and it's giving us some more information here. You'll notice that we have this tag here that it's telling us add the GigPress Shows shortcode to any page or post. We're going to do that the next time around. But let's take a look now at kind of what's happened in GigPress. If we go on the left to where it says shows, you'll notice our show has been created here. We can edit it right from here, and basically in this page we can see a list of all of our shows. You'll notice it defaults to upcoming at the top here. If you click past, it would show us any shows that we had in our past. So for those of you who might be moving from a different platform, you can add your shows here. There is a way to import and export those, which we'll take a look at that link once we work our way down the list. Next, we'll look at artists. Since what I'm kind of gearing this tutorial towards is a single band, you're likely to only have one artist. Although there may be a case that you want to use two for the same band. Say you want to have a separate artist for when you do acoustic shows. Maybe you have a band, but you're also someone who maybe you alone as the lead singer, or maybe you and a guitar player go and do acoustic shows from time to time, but you want to keep them together with the band, but just a little bit different when people are looking at shows so they might know what to expect. You could add here something like the Miserables acoustic and have that as an artist, and that would help you split the listings between the two kind of different situations when we display the shows. We'll come here and go to venues. Here you can very easily add new venues if you want to pre-populate some of this information. And you'll notice that we have all of our venues listed down here. Now the nice thing about this is if you play at the same venue more than once, you're already going to have most of the information in the database. So it becomes very easy for local shows, especially to just kind of add them on the fly without having to re-enter addresses and phone numbers and all that kind of stuff. However, what I will say is that once in a while, probably if you do add a show and you're like, hey, we haven't played at this venue in a while, say, you went to Texas last year and now you're going back and you're playing the same venue. A year can be a long time in the online world. You might want to make sure that just the details are still accurate. The address likely to stay the same, but maybe their URL has changed or something like that. You might want to just give it a quick double check. The next list we can look at is tours. We don't have any tours in this database, but this is really easy. You can just create a new tour right here, or like when we said, as you're adding a show, you can create a tour right on the fly. We do have some settings to take a look at. This one here, I don't ever use this. I'm not sure what they populate from this, but I assume it's some kind of pre-canned content. Again, I prefer to use the short codes. So if you want to, you can take a look at the more detailed GigPress documentation and see what this does, but it's not anything that I use. Here we have the text for when no upcoming shows are available. So on any page where we're displaying the list of upcoming shows, when there aren't any, it will display a message for you. So you can put that message here. Same thing for past shows. If you don't have any past shows like this site right now, it's got this little fill-in thing here, and we'll take a look at that when we actually create the page next time around. User level required to use GigPress. So typically these are going to be one user sites. If you have multiple band members that want their own accounts, you can decide how you want to do your permissions, but typically WordPress has 4 different user levels: administrators, who have the most access; editors, authors, and contributors, contributors having the very least access. So if you only want, for example, you as the administrator to be able to enter shows, you can change that here. Some of this other stuff right here gets pretty complicated. I generally stick with the defaults here because they're pretty good. But if you do want to change the way GigPress outputs dates and times, you can click this link here to take a look at the documentation on what you would have to put in here. I don't know that I've ever bothered changing this before. Like I said, the defaults are pretty good. These labels here are used in the listings for the full listings to kind of tell what information is artist, tour. Here's the link for the external URL, I think, again, that I don't use very often. I guess one thing you could use that external URL for is if you had like a Facebook event invite, you could put that URL there and maybe just say like Facebook right here. And then in the listing, it would show, Facebook. That would be one way to use that. The buy tickets label, again, this is a lot of stuff I don't change. Here's your age restrictions right here. Interestingly, the way they do the age restrictions is they separate them with what's called a pipe character. That's the kind of vertical bar, usually very far to the right on the keyboard above the enter key. You need to separate yours with a pipe and then a space. So a space on either side of the pipe. So if we wanted to add another one here, we could say like 21 plus. Here's a related post. Again, this is something I don't use. This related shows, also kind of all these next few fields here, I don't use too much. This I'll leave, link artist names to their URLs. Make the GigPress RSS feed auto-discoverable. This stuff here, if you know what an RSS feed is, you'll understand what that means. Essentially, an RSS feed is a syndication feed for news. Some people like using these. It's built into GigPress. There's no reason to have it turned off or anything. Just leave all of this as it is. One of the really nice things about GigPress is it has an iCalendar feed. So if somebody clicks on the iCal button, they can subscribe to your GigPress feed right on their own calendar. So if there's somebody that's a big fan of yours, or even your own band can subscribe to the feed so they can see, their shows on the calendar basically and know when their shows are going to be. I usually do check this, open external links in new windows. That's pretty standard behavior for any kind of external link. If it's taking somebody away from your site, you want it to open in a new window. Usually that's actually a new tab in most modern browsers, not a new window. It'll open it up in a new tab. The rest of this is, pretty straightforward. We're going to leave this as it is. We are going to use some of the GigPress CSS, but not all of it, because that'll be written over by our theme, and we don't want to mess with their JavaScript at all. So that's kind of a very quick walkthrough of the settings. You can play around with this. You're not going to break anything, but typically there's not too much that you want to change. So we're going to save these changes. And the last thing we're going to look at is ImportExport. So here, one of the really nice things, again, about owning all your data is that typically there is an easy way to import and export data from your database so that you can have access to it at all times. GigPress is great for that. One thing about importing data is you need to know how to do comma-separated value sheets. You can do these with Excel, you can do them with LibreOffice, OpenOffice, basically any spreadsheet can do it, or if you know how to use a standard text editor, you can do it with one of those as well. I would highly recommend, because it is beyond the scope of this tutorial, that if you do want to import your existing shows, read this link here, the please review the formatting specifications to save yourself headaches. It'll walk you through all the columns that you have to have and what is supposed to be in each column. Once you have that, it's as simple as clicking choose file here, picking your file, and hitting upload. Export is great as well. Again, since I'm only using this for a single band, I just leave all this as it is, and if I hit download CSV, I get everything. You can very easily say, oh, I just want my upcoming ones, or I just want my past ones as well. So that's GigPress in a nutshell. So what I would recommend doing is get your show's database set up before we move on to the next one. Once you have your show's database set up, it'll just, when we do the next tutorial, you'll actually be able to see the fruits of your labor when we talk about pages. So again, if you stuck it out this far, I'm pretty sure you're going to keep going. You can subscribe to any additional videos on the YouTube page, follow it on the website. Again, ask any comments that you want. You can find me on Twitter. The link for all my stuff is right on the podcast page. So hopefully this has been helpful so far, and I'll see you next time.